Section 4A, Overview of Assessments including external, PT/EQA, and internal types. Learning objectives. Following completion of this session, participants will be able to describe the principles and guidance of the CLSI Quality System Essential QC assessments list and describe the two required external assessment processes list and describe the required internal assessment processes. Develop your laboratory's external accreditation assessment process. Develop your laboratory's process for selection of, enrollment in, and participation in proficiency testing, PT, also known as external quality assessments, EQA. Learning objectives continued. Following completion of this session, participants will be able to discuss alternative assessments of examination method performance, describe the purpose of and process for internal laboratory audits, describe and identify appropriate laboratory quality indicators, discuss how the laboratory can compare its performance to that of other laboratories, identify resources for implementing a blood utilization process where needed. Introduction to Quality System Essential QC assessments. QC assessments describes the use of external and internal monitoring and assessments to verify that laboratory processes meet requirements, determine how well those processes are functioning. QC assessments and ISO QC ISO 15189:2022 ISO/IC 17025:2017 ISO 9001:2015 assessments 8.8. Evaluations 8.8.3 Internal audits 8.8 Internal audits. Option A. 7.1.5 Monitoring and measuring resources. General 9.1 Monitoring, measurement, analysis. And Evaluation 9.2 Internal audit. QC assessments. External assessments, policy, processes, procedures. External assessments, process to select and enroll in external accreditation assessment or inspection programs, planning for the external accreditation assessment. Following up on the external accreditation assessment report, process to manage external assessment events, performing day of assessment activities, processes to select, enroll in, and participate in PT. Enrolling in the appropriate PT programs, reporting. Results to the PT provider, following up on the PT results report, process to conduct alternative assessment of examination method performance, i.e., verification of examination result accuracy. When a formal PT program is not available, designing an alternative method for assessing each examination when no formal PT is available from a PT provider. QC assessments, external assessments and inspections. External assessments are activities conducted by sources outside the laboratory, such as regulatory and accreditation. Organizations to evaluate the effectiveness of the laboratory's QMS. Laboratories may be subject to many different external assessments, both mandatory and voluntary, to determine whether requirements are met. Each regulatory and accreditation organization has its own specific program requirements and can assess to different standards. Specific program requirements can be obtained from each external assessment organization. QC assessments, external assessments and inspections. The laboratory's process to manage external assessments should include the responsibilities and activities for scheduling, completing pre-assessment paperwork, receiving assessors, conducting the assessment, participating in the closing summary, responding to cited deficiencies and adverse findings, implementing any needed corrective actions, verifying the effectiveness of the actions taken, sustaining readiness for assessment throughout the assessment cycle. QC assessments, external assessments and inspections. Assessments for the purpose of laboratory accreditation are conducted at specified intervals. All information provided to external accreditation. Organizations must be truthful. The laboratory must not engage in any false or misleading advertising about its accreditation award. Advertising must accurately reflect the scope of accredited programs and services. Any changes in the information provided to the accrediting Organization must be reported. Laboratories that have a well-established QMS usually experience successful external assessments. QC assessments, external assessments, proficiency testing. Laboratories, including human health, animal health, food. Safety, environmental testing, need to participate in a PT program or other external assessment activity that provides. An external means to verify the accuracy and reliability of examination methods and results. Each regulatory and accreditation organization has specific PT program requirements such as scope, examination, schedule, and evaluation processes. The laboratory should have policies, processes, and procedures for PT material receipt, handling, testing, and result reporting. Laboratory management needs to perform a timely review of every PT provider report, take any necessary corrective actions, and evaluate the effectiveness of these actions. QC assessments, external assessments, proficiency testing. When no formal PT program exists or calibration or control materials are not available, the laboratory needs a means to verify the trueness, i.e., accuracy, of examination results. Comparisons of laboratory results with results of examinations performed by a different laboratory on split specimens, periodic examinations on stored stable aliquots that have known values, analysis of interlaboratory QC data, e.g., that provided by instrument manufacturers, reevaluated interpretations by a second or more persons, direct observation of technique-dependent examinations by qualified observers, e.g., trainers, those qualified to perform competence assessments, internal auditors, culture of surrogate organisms for dangerous organism, QC assessments, alternative assessments. When no formal PT program exists or calibration or control materials are not available, the laboratory needs a means to verify the trueness, i.e., accuracy, of examination results. Comparisons of laboratory results with results of examinations performed by a different laboratory on split specimens, periodic examinations on stored stable aliquots that have known values, analysis of interlaboratory QC data, e.g., that provided by instrument manufacturers, reevaluated interpretations by a second or more persons, direct observation of technique-dependent examinations by qualified observers, e.g., trainers, those qualified to perform competence assessments, internal auditors, culture of surrogate organisms for dangerous organism. QC assessments, internal assessments, policy processes, procedures, internal assessments, processes to perform, report, and manage internal audits of the QMS and pre-examination, examination, and post-examination activities. Planning, scheduling, and conducting an internal audit, preparing a report of audit findings, reviewing audit report, and following up on audit findings. Process to monitor quality indicators, defining a quality indicator. Collecting and analyzing data for a given quality indicator, monitoring quality indicators, process to compare performance with other laboratories, comparing laboratory performance data with those from other laboratories, process to assess blood utilization when applicable, preparing blood utilization data. QC assessments, internal assessments. Internal assessments are activities conducted by the laboratory itself that answer the questions, are we in compliance with requirements, and how well are we doing? Assessment of the laboratory's QMS processes through the ongoing evaluation of risks provides a means to continually improve the QMS. Two types of internal assessments commonly conducted by laboratories and or their parent organizations are internal audits and monitoring of laboratory performance through quality indicator measurements. QC assessments, internal assessments. Internal assessments are activities conducted by the laboratory itself that answer the questions, are we in compliance with requirements, and how well are we doing? Assessment of the laboratory's QMS processes through The ongoing evaluation of risks provides a means to continually improve the QMS. Two types of internal assessments commonly conducted by laboratories and/or their parent. Organizations are internal audits and monitoring of laboratory performance through quality indicator measurements, QC assessments, internal audits. The laboratory needs to establish a program to conduct internal audits of the QCs and path of workflow processes. The program needs to include planning, scheduling, conducting the audits, follow up to adverse findings. QMS audits determine whether the laboratory is meeting the intent of applicable requirements, responding to customer expectations, and following established processes and procedures for ensuring patient safety. The laboratory's QMS may be audited by reviewing the QMS documentation and by conducting direct observations and interviews for the purpose of verifying that laboratory personnel follow the QMS. QC assessments, internal audits. The auditor examines whether or not the laboratory has defined its policies, documented its processes and procedures, and communicated them adequately to its personnel. In an observational audit, the auditor observes whether personnel are following established processes and procedures. The techniques used include direct observations, personnel, interviews, and records reviews. In a records audit, the auditor examines laboratory records, external assessment reports, satisfaction survey results, and NC reports to ascertain whether or not the services produced from the stated processes and procedures meet the stated intent, any applicable requirements, and the customer's expectations. QC assessments, internal audits. Laboratory personnel performing QMS audits need to receive special training in the audit function. To avoid conflicts, auditors should not review any activity for which they have direct responsibility. At the audit's conclusion, the auditor issues a report to laboratory management that describes any discrepancies between the documented QMS and the findings of the records reviews, interviews, and observations. The report is written in a way that helps management understand the effects of the discrepancies on service, quality to customers, or ability to meet stated quality objectives. The report can also include commendable practices that identify exceptional areas. QC assessments, internal audits. Internal audits require root cause analysis and corrective action on audit findings, an evaluation of the effectiveness of corrective action. Records are needed for audit schedules, reports, corrective actions, evaluation of corrective actions. QC assessments, quality indicators. Quality indicators are used to measure and monitor process performance. Selected by laboratory management, provide evidence that the laboratory is meeting its quality objectives. Performance is measured against a pre-established target, should cover pre-examination, examination, and post-examination phases, should focus on high risk, high cost, and problematic processes. QC assessments, quality indicators. Some examples of laboratory quality indicators: presence of accurate patient identification, e.g., wristband, at the time of specimen collection. Acceptability of specimens for examinations, turnaround time of laboratory examination results, and reports to key customers. Number of specimens that are missing when later needed, number of corrections to released reports, blood product wastage, and outdating cross-match to transfusion ratio by surgical procedure. QC assessments, quality indicators. When information from indicators demonstrates that performance is unacceptable or trending in that direction, the laboratory needs to develop and implement an action plan for improving performance. The actions taken need to be reassessed to ensure they are effective. When information from indicators demonstrates continued acceptable performance by the laboratory over time, the target can be adjusted to encourage continual improvement. New indicators can be selected to identify potential new opportunities for improvement. QC assessments, performance comparison. Performance comparison is the activity of comparing the laboratory's performance with that of other laboratories of like kind or the best in class for a similar type of service. This activity provides knowledge of how the laboratory measures up to its peers or to those considered to be world-class organizations, sometimes called benchmarking. The laboratory can also compare its process performance. Data with external sources when available. Examples of external sources of information include recent scientific, clinical, and management literature, practice guidelines or parameters, performance measures, reference databases, other organizations with similar processes and standards that are periodically reviewed and revised, QC assessments, periodic reporting to management. Consistent with QC organization and leadership, the laboratory must periodically review the status of its QMS, confirm its effectiveness, and identify opportunities for improvement. Information from internal and external assessments, customer feedback, and NCEs is valuable for this purpose. Quality system essential. QC assessment requirements in practice and application. External assessments. A. Implement processes for selection, enrollment, and participation in external laboratory accreditation. D. Implement processes for selection, enrollment, and participation in PT/EQA. C. Implement any needed alternative assessment processes for examination method performance. Internal assessments. D. Implement an internal laboratory audit program and related processes. E. Identify and monitor laboratory quality indicators. F. Compare your laboratory's performance to other laboratories. G. Assess utilization of blood components where applicable. The purpose of assessment. 1. Verify that laboratory processes meet requirements. 3. Compare performance to other similar laboratories. 2. Determine how well laboratory processes are functioning. 4. Identify areas for improvement. Types of assessments: external assessments, accreditation or licensure assessment, mandatory and voluntary, PT/EQA, and alternative testing when PT is not available. Internal assessments, quality indicators, i.e., measurements, laboratory internal audit program, performance comparison, blood utilization review. 1. External accreditation assessments. The laboratory needs to identify mandatory versus voluntary assessment programs. Participate in mandatory programs. Participate whenever possible in voluntary programs. 2. Types of external accreditation assessments. Mandatory, per regulatory requirement. To maintain licensure or approval to provide laboratory services, e.g., CMS, United States, CLA, OLE, Canada. To secure payment for laboratory services. Voluntary, accreditation to publish standards. Choice to achieve a higher standard. General laboratory, e.g., ISO 15189, ISO 17025, ISO 9001. The Joint Commission, CAP, COLA. Specialty services. Transfusion medicine. Abbreviations: CAP, College of American Pathologists, CLA, Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendments, CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, ISO, International Organization for Standardization, OLE, Ontario Laboratory Accreditation. Tissue genetics. 3. External accreditation assessment process stage description 1 completion and submission of pre-assessment paperwork 2 schedule of assessment staffing 4 unannounced. Assessment window 3 arrangement of logistics 4 receipt of assessors, 5 delivery of opening meeting stage description, 6 assistance during assessment, 7 delivery of closing meeting, 8 review of assessment report, 9 preparation of response to report, 10 implementation of any needed corrective action, 11 verification of effectiveness of corrective action. Pre-accreditation requirements, management, implementation of quality management systems, internal audit, non-conformances, management review meeting, pre-accreditation requirements, technical, method validation/verification, training and competency of staff, equipment maintenance, quality assurance, accreditation process. What is accreditation body? AB's responsibility. The accrediting body, AB, assess factors relevant to a conformity assessment body, say BIS, ability to produce precise, accurate test, calibration, certification, inspection results, including measurement, verification, and validation data. The AB promotes the acceptance of such results nationally, regionally, and internationally. E.g., before people can trust that a lab that tests for water, the CAB, is doing its job properly, an AB will come and inspect the lab to ensure it follows all the necessary procedures and standards for testing water. Factors to be assessed by the AB: technical competency of staff, validity and appropriateness of methods, traceability of measurements to national and international standards, suitability, calibration, and maintenance of equipment, suitable environmental conditions, handling of test/inspection, calibration, and verification items, quality assurance processes, and reporting of results. What are the benefits of accreditation to CABs? Improved management policies, more effective and efficient operations, stronger risk management strategies, reduction in incidents, enhanced team awareness, credibility with government and customers, marketing edge, competitive advantage, greater customer trust, customer intimacy, professional self-respect, international recognition. What are the benefits of accreditation to CABs? Improved documentation, improved consistency, improved access to markets, improved supplier relations, improved productivity, improved employee morale, improved customer services, greater customer focus. What are the requirements for accreditation? The requirements for accreditation is set out in international standards, also called ISO/IEC standards. AB's additional accreditation requirements. There are different standards for different conformity assessment bodies. The additional accreditation requirements as set by the AB can be found on the AB website. Examples of accreditation standards: medical laboratories, ISO 15189 and or ISO/IC 17025. Certification bodies, ISO/IC 17021 or ISO/IC 17024 or ISO/IC 17065 or ISO/IC 14065, and the IF interpretation thereof. Testing and calibration laboratories, ISO/IC 17025. Inspection bodies, ISO/IC 17020 standards. GLP facilities are inspected for compliance to OECD GLP principles. Verification laboratories, SANS 10375. Proficiency testing schemes, ISO/IC 17043. Certified reference material, ISO Guide 34. Stages of accreditation process. Application stage. The first stage of the accreditation process is for the CAB to complete and return their application, including relevant documentation requested within the application form, along with payment to AB. Document review stage. The second stage involves the document review, where AB reviews the application documents against the relevant accreditation criteria and provides a report to the applicant. The next stage of assessment will not proceed until the documented systems meet requirements. Stages of accreditation process. Assessment stage. The third stage involves the assessment, where AB selects an assessment team who undertake an on-site assessment at the applicant's offices. The assessment team also witnesses the applicant's team undertaking assessment activity at their client's premises. At the completion of the assessments, the assessment team write a report of their findings along with recommendations. Review of the assessment. The fourth stage involves a review of assessment report, where AB forms an Accreditation Approval Advisory Committee, AAC. Members of this committee are individuals who have expertise in the scope of accreditation sought. The AAC reviews the report and makes a recommendation regarding accreditation to the CEO. Stages of accreditation process. Accreditation decision stage. The fifth stage involves the accreditation decision, where the CEO make a decision to approve or not approve accreditation based on the evaluation report of the AAC. If approval is granted, a certificate of accreditation issued. If accreditation is not approved, the applicant is advised of the reasons for the decision. A further application may be considered at a later date. What can you expect from the accreditation process and the assessors? Pre-opening meeting. Opening meeting. The assessment. During the assessment, assessors may record findings that facility staff will be required to acknowledge by signing. Pre-closeout meeting. Closeout meeting. The lead assessor will submit a report to AB. What can you expect from the accreditation process and the assessors? An Accreditation Approval Advisory Committee will evaluate the assessment report and any corrective actions submitted by the facility to correct nonconformances records at the assessment. The Accreditation Approval Advisory Committee evaluates the report to see that the report documentation generated by the assessment team reflects the recommendation made by the team. The Accreditation Approval Committee will make a recommendation to the CEO based on their evaluation. What can you expect from the accreditation process and the assessors? An assessment of the documentation of the CAB that specifies the criteria for the competence of personnel, including records for the conduct of competence analysis, specific procedures, guidelines, checklists, instructions, etc., addressing specific requirements for the different conformity assessment activities included in the accreditation scope, if any. The procedures followed and the personnel available for the contract reviews, the allocation of resources for the conformity assessment activities, and reporting of results. Records showing that the CAB has processes in place for the maintenance and review of the above criteria on a periodic basis, and documented evidence supporting the CAB's personnel competence. Process for accreditation. Understand standards. Implement work plan/QMS. Internal audit. Apply to accrediting body. Prepare for official assessment. Case study. New Analyzer ABC, AS. 1. QC assessments requirement application to Analyzer ABC implement processes for selection, enrollment, and participation in external laboratory accreditation. The laboratory already participates in a nationally mandated program of external accreditation assessment to maintain its licensure and ability to offer laboratory services. The laboratory developed a flowchart of all the activities shown on the previous slide and assigned responsibility for specific activities in this process to designated laboratory management and technical staff. It is felt that when staff follow all processes and procedures as written and complete all required entries on forms and screens for operating Analyzer ABC, then there should be no problems with providing objective evidence of meeting the related accreditation requirements when the assessors are present. Stages of accreditation process. Accreditation decision stage. The fifth stage involves the accreditation decision, where the CO make a decision to approve or not approve accreditation based on the evaluation report of the AAC. If approval is granted, a certificate of accreditation issued. If accreditation is not approved, the applicant is advised of the reasons for the decision. A further application may be considered at a later date. B1. Selection, enrollment, and participation in proficiency testing/external quality assessment. PT is intended to verify the accuracy and reliability of examination methods and results. Types of laboratories include medical laboratories, blood gas testing laboratories, point-of-care testing programs, animal health/veterinary laboratories, food safety/environmental testing laboratories. B2. Laboratory proficiency testing/external quality assessment program. PT/EQA program requirements include scope, examination schedule, results submission process, evaluation process, preparation of report to the submitting laboratories, laboratory policies, processes, and procedures. 4. Sample receipt and handling, examinations, reporting results, receipt and review of results, taking and verifying effectiveness of any corrective actions. Case study, new analyzer ABC, AS, 2, QC assessments requirement application to analyzer ABC implement processes for selection, enrollment, and participation in PT/EQA. The laboratory compared the list of analytes it is planning to offer on new analyzer ABC with the list of analytes for which PT is required. All offered analytes will need PT. The laboratory compared the analytes it is planning to offer on the new analyzer ABC to the list of available PT enrollments offered by its primary PT provider. Most, but not all, analytes are available. PT challenges for all but one of the analytes can be secured from a secondary PT provider. The laboratory contacted both PT providers, completed their respective application processes, and paid the required fees. The automated testing section supervisor and quality manager added the new PT challenges to the master PT schedule that rotates such testing across all testing staff on all shifts where examinations are performed. The first set of PT challenge samples is scheduled to arrive so that examinations can be performed during the performance qualification process and results received within the first quarter of actual patient testing. C. Alternative assessment processes for examination method performance. When no formal PT/EQ exists, there is a requirement for other approaches to provide objective evidence of acceptability of examination results. Other approaches include samples split with another laboratory, stored stable aliquots with known values, analysis of interlaboratory quality control (QC) data, reevaluated interpretations by other persons, direct observation of technique-dependent tests, culture of surrogate organisms for dangerous organisms. Case study, new analyzer ABC, AS, 3. QC assessments requirement application to analyzer ABC implement any needed alternative assessment processes for examination method performance. The automated testing section supervisor determined that there is one analyte for which no PT is available from an established provider. Therefore, the laboratory will need to implement an alternative assessment method for that analyte. The laboratory has chosen to share previously examined samples with another laboratory that has the same analyzer ABC and is performing the same analyte. The laboratories have agreed to share samples at least 3 times each year on or about the same schedule as for the PT performed on the other analytes on the analyzer ABC. The automated testing section supervisor wrote a procedure for how the alternative assessment by shared samples will be handled. D1. Internal Laboratory Audit Program. A program to conduct internal audits. 1. Demonstrate that laboratory processes meet requirements. 3. Ensure compliance with the laboratory's policies, processes, and procedures of the QCs and path of workflow to 2. Demonstrate whether the laboratory is meeting customer expectations. 4. Continually improve the laboratory's QMS. D2. Two types of internal audits. Records audit. Laboratory work records. Personnel files. Document files. External assessment reports. Satisfaction survey results. Non-conforming event reports. Sampling of records or to represent whole. Sample X of Y total records. Every nth record. Process audit. Observation of staff performing work. Comparison of actual work to approved documented processes and procedures. Determination of whether processes and procedures are performed as written. D3. Audit planning. Scheduled by quality manager/officer or designee. Covers at least each work area. Once per year. Uses staff trained in auditing. Ideally conducted by staff from another area. Not performed on own work. D4. Laboratory internal audit process, parts 1 and 2. This schedule indicates how an audit is done. 1. Audit preparation performed. Audit plan prepared. Documents reviewed. Checklist developed. 3. Audit report prepared. Findings, not symptoms. Non-compliant processes. Connected to requirements. 4. Follow-up performed. Remedial action taken. Root causes identified. Corrective action implemented. Effectiveness determined. D5. Laboratory internal audit process, parts 3 and 4. Audit findings reported and follow-up action taken. 1. Audit preparation performed. Audit plan prepared. Documents reviewed. Checklist developed. 3. Audit report prepared. Findings, not symptoms. Non-compliant processes. Connected to requirements. 2. Audit conducted through tracing, sampling, corroboration. D6. Laboratory internal audit report section heading description finding of nonconformance and audit conclusion that identifies a condition having an adverse effect on the quality of the activity under review applicable requirement citation of the requirement, e.g. clause of standard, name and page of procedure, etc. Objective evidence, facts, listing of verifiable facts derived from data collection. D7. Example of a laboratory internal audit report. Heading 3, 2, 1. Finding. Applicable. Requirement. Objective. Evidence. Facts. Description. The training program for new laboratory clerks is not documented properly. Specific clauses of regulatory and accreditation. Reference requirements are listed. Laboratory clerk training checklist. Sample receiving process and procedure. Barbara's training record has not been signed off, yet she was entering a cerebrospinal fluid sample into the laboratory information system. There are no records of ongoing competence assessment for any sample receiving section staff. 3 of 5 training records examined were not complete, yet staff had been working for over a year. Case study. New Analyzer ABC AS4. QC Assessment Requirement Application to Analyzer ABC implement an internal laboratory audit program and related processes. The laboratory's quality manager prepared a schedule for auditing the processes and documents for the new Analyzer ABC. It was determined that, considering the newness of the analyzer, records and process audits would be performed quarterly during the first year of operation. Staff who performed testing on other automated analyzers were chosen as auditors, given auditor training and practiced auditing. Audits were conducted according to the schedule. Auditors prepared reports in the laboratory's standard audit report form. The laboratory quality manager included a summary of the audit findings in the quality report for management review. E1. Laboratory quality indicators. Evidence that the laboratory is meeting its objectives and therefore quality goals. Observations, statistics, or data that demonstrate the performance of a given work process. Indicators selected for pre-examination, examination, and post-examination processes. Indicator data presented in the periodic quality report for management review. E2. Examples of laboratory quality indicators. Pre-examination indicators. Examination request accuracy. Accurate patient ID at sample collection. Phlebotomy success rate. Acceptability of samples. Patient satisfaction with phlebotomy. Examination indicators. Rate or number of QC failures. Rate or number of technical failures. Turnaround time of time-sensitive results to key customers. Blood culture contamination rate. Post-examination indicators. Critical values reporting consistency. Missing samples. Corrections to verified reports. Blood product wastage and outdating. Completeness of chain of custody. E3. Quality indicators. Development. 1. Part 1. Operational definition. Indicator identification. Name or reference number. Purpose. Reason for this measurement. Scope. Boundaries of the process being measured. Authority. Entity responsible for monitoring. Domain. QC. Path of workflow, laboratory section, etc. E3. Quality indicators. Development. 2. Part 2. Documented process for data collection. Individuals responsible for collecting data. Frequency of. Measurement. Data sources. Variable versus attribute. Data. Sampling scheme. Validation studies. External references. Targets and thresholds. Use of pilot trial. Calculation and data manipulation. Form of presentation. Recipients. E3. Quality indicators. Development. 3. Part 3. Target setting. Identify current performance. Establish target based on quality objectives or risk assessment. Determine criticality of target and improvement to patient safety. Clinical effectiveness, service quality, or cost benefit. Select feasible or stretch target. Determine whether there is an evidence-based. Benchmark. Set an action threshold. E4. Quality indicators. Data presentation. Underscore, 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 underscore. F. Laboratory. F. Case study. New analyzer ABC AS5. Case study. Case study. Case study. New. Case study. Case study. New analyzer ABC AS5. QC assessments requirement application to analyzer ABC identify and monitor laboratory quality indicators. The automated testing section supervisor and the quality manager have identified quality indicators for the new analyzer ABC that cover the entire path of workflow. Pre-examination indicators. Examination request accuracy, adequacy of collected samples examination indicators, incomplete test runs from technical failures, invalid test runs from QC and calibrator failures. Post-examination indicators. Turnaround time from sample receipt to results release. Corrected reports quality indicator data will be graphically presented using tools similar to those for other selected examinations. F. Laboratory performance comparison. Activity of comparing laboratory performance to other laboratories of similar size and scope. Published laboratory best practices. Provides knowledge of how laboratory compares to peers. Laboratories recognized as having best practice. Benchmarking is comparison to world-class only. Few published laboratory best-in-class benchmarks. However, laboratories can participate in performance comparison. Case study. New analyzer ABC AS6. QC assessments requirement application to Analyzer ABC compare your laboratory's performance to other laboratories for pre-examination comparison. The laboratory will compare its examination order accuracy and sample acceptability data to those published in studies conducted by a laboratory accreditation organization. Examination comparison to other laboratories will be accomplished through participation in PT and alternative PT programs and submission of the analyzer's QC data to the QC materials manufacturer. For post-examination comparison, the laboratory will compare its turnaround time and corrected report data to those published in studies conducted by a laboratory accreditation organization, because these examinations were not done previously in this laboratory. G1. Blood utilization where applicable. Peer review program to ensure safe and appropriate blood transfusions through review of. Practitioner ordering practices, transfusion service policies, processes, and procedures. Usually a multidisciplinary committee. Medical staff from clinical specialties, nursing staff, transfusion service medical director. Selected transfusion service staff. Records of activities, decisions, and actions. G2. Blood utilization, activities to monitor. Blood ordering practices. Patient identification at. Sample collection. Transfusion. Sample collection and labeling. Adverse events. Infectious. Non-infectious. Near-miss events. Blood component use. And discard. Appropriateness of use. Blood administration. Practices and training. Ability of services to meet. Patient needs. Compliance with peer. Review recommendations. Case study. New Analyzer ABC as 7. QC assessments requirement application to Analyzer ABC assess utilization of blood components. Where applicable, the new Analyzer ABC is not related to blood utilization in any way. However, the laboratory does provide transfusion services, and the transfusion service medical director and supervisor are actively involved in collecting and analyzing data. Information gathered is provided for blood utilization review, and there is active participation in the blood review committee's activities. Assessment information goes into the quality report. Findings from external accreditation assessments. PT and alternative PT performance. Findings from internal audits of QCs and path of workflow. Graphical presentations of quality indicator data. In all cases, findings and/or summary data, decisions made, actions taken, effectiveness of any corrective action. Key messages. The laboratory needs both external and internal assessment programs. Assessment programs answer these questions. How well is our laboratory doing? How are we doing with respect to other laboratories like ours? The laboratory should have documented processes for each type of external and internal assessment. Performance on assessments is an important part of the laboratory's quality report for management review. QC assessments. Conclusion. It isn't what you find. It's what you do about what you find. Philip Crosby. Thank you.